Okoro standing by the misty African riverside at dawn, reflection faintly smiling. Did you know, in a small forgotten village deep in Africa, there was once a boy whose laughter became his curse? They say his voice could carry across fields, through the forest, even over the river itself. But one day, that same laughter was heard in the dead of night, echoing from places where no living child should be. The elders warned him again and again, "Do not mock the spirits, do not hunger for what does not belong to you." But he laughed anyway, and from that moment strange things began to happen. Goats refused to graze where his shadow fell. Fires burned low when he entered a hut. At the river, his reflection sometimes moved when he stood still. The whispers say he was offered a gift, wealth, strength, respect, but at a price no man could truly pay. Yet he accepted, for who can resist when fortune knocks? This is not a story of gold or glory. It is a story of how laughter turned to weeping, how joy became terror, and how a single mistake can echo through generations. Close-up of Okoro's shocked face as he hears the disembodied voice at the river. Tell me, if a spirit offered you everything you ever wanted, would you take it? And if you did, how long before it came back to collect? In the village of Ukiri, life followed the rhythm of the seasons. The sun rose over red clay huts and dipped behind endless rows of cassava and yam. Men woke with the crow of the rooster, shouldering hoes and cutlasses, their laughter and chatter filling the air as they set off to the fields. Women pounded yam in heavy mortars, the steady thud echoing like a drumbeat of life. Children played in the dust, chasing one another until their feet were coated in red earth. In the evenings, the entire village gathered at the square, where fires burned low and elders told stories that carried lessons hidden in riddles and proverbs. Among the villagers was Okoro, a young man with restless eyes. He was not a bad child. No, his mother would insist he was merely curious, always asking questions others dared not voice. But his curiosity was sharper than most, and his hunger for more could not be filled by yam fields and palm wine alone. While his friends were content with laughter around the fire, Okoro wanted to know why the elders kept certain secrets, why the drummers sometimes stopped playing at night, why the women threw bits of food into the forest before eating. He asked questions until his father's patience wore thin. "There are things you do not ask," his father warned. "To know too much is to bring trouble to your own doorstep." Okoro at the riverside laughing defiantly, reflection laughing louder. Still, Okoro's restlessness grew. He watched as traders from other towns passed through, carrying cowries, beads, and even coins of silver. He watched men gain respect by their wealth, their voices carrying weight in the council. He wanted that respect, that power, and he wanted it quickly. He did not see why the land should decide his fate. The first whisper came on a Saturday morning. Okoro had woken early and wandered to the river. The mist curled over the water like a living thing, and the forest around him was hushed. As he bent to drink, he heard it. His name spoken softly but unmistakably. "Okoro." He spun around, but no one was there. Then came the laugh, light, almost playful, echoing across the water though the air was still. He ran home, his heart thundering. But by the time he reached the compound, he was smiling. To him, it had not felt like danger. It had felt like invitation. That night he returned. This time the voice was clearer, like a friend whispering in his ear. It spoke of things he longed for. Palm oil that flowed without end. Yam barns overflowing, his name spoken with respect among the elders. "All this can be yours," it said, "if only you are bold enough to laugh when others are silent." Okoro knew the warnings. He knew that to mock the silence of the spirits was forbidden. But temptation is sweetest when it comes dressed as courage. And so he laughed. Just once at first. The sound startled even him, bouncing through the trees like a drumbeat. But the forest did not strike him down. The river did not swallow him whole. He returned home convinced he had broken a rule and won. The next weeks brought strange blessings. His traps caught twice the game of other hunters. Traders offered him fairer prices than his peers. Even in the fields, his cassava grew thick and strong. The villagers noticed, and soon whispers began. Some praised him. Others grew wary. His mother begged him to be careful. But Okoro only laughed. The same laugh that had once been harmless, but now carried an edge. And then, the shadows began to move. At night, children woke crying. claiming they heard Okoro's voice outside their windows. Goats broke their tethers when he passed. When he laughed, the flames of cooking fires bent away from him, as though resisting his presence. The elders called him before the council, demanding answers, but Okoro only smiled. "Am I to blame if fortune favors me?" he asked. The oldest of them fixed him with a heavy gaze. "No man eats with spirits and remains a man. Break this path now, before it breaks you." But Okoro could not. The whispers had grown stronger, urging him on. He began to meet the voice at the river every Saturday, laughing louder, bolder, until even the ground beneath him trembled with the sound. One evening, the villagers followed quietly, hiding among the trees. What they saw froze their blood. Okoro standing before the water, his reflection grinning back at him even when his mouth was still. And when he laughed, the reflection laughed twice as loud, the sound rolling through the forest like thunder. The final Saturday came with heavy clouds. Okoro went to the river as always, his steps confident, his eyes shining. He laughed once, twice, 3 times, but this time the earth shuddered beneath his feet. The water rose without wind. His reflection stretched and warped, its mouth opening wider than a man's could, its laughter echoing in broken, twisted tones. The ground split, the stone beneath his feet glowing black as night. Before the villagers could cry out, Okoro was dragged downward, his own laughter turning to screams as the earth swallowed him whole. When silence fell, only a single black stone remained where he had stood. The day Okoro vanished into the earth, the village did not celebrate, nor did it mourn in the usual way. There was no burial, no drumbeat of farewell, no kola nut broken in his honor. Instead there was silence, an uneasy quiet that pressed down on every roof like a heavy sky. Mothers hushed their children, elders avoided one another's eyes, and the marketplace emptied before dusk. For weeks the villagers whispered. Some said Okoro had been swallowed by the earth itself, taken to a place where restless spirits dwell. Others swore they had seen him in the shadows by the river, eyes glowing red, his laughter broken and hollow. A few claimed his voice still called at night, pleading with the living to answer, to break the rules as he once had. His mother never recovered. Each morning she walked to the center of the compound where her son had last knelt, sitting cross-legged before the small black stone that remained. She would not touch it, but she would sit for hours, whispering prayers, calling his name. "Okoro," she would say softly, "if you can hear me, forgive me. Forgive us all." Some nights the villagers heard her weeping. Other nights they swore they heard her laughing, not with joy, but with the same broken rhythm that had dragged her son beneath the earth. The elders gathered not long after the incident. They spoke gravely, reminding the people that this was no new story. For generations, warnings had been passed down. Never mock the unseen, never hunger for wealth without sacrifice, and above all, never believe that rules of the spirit world can be bent by human hands. From that time, the rules of the spirit covenant became a proverb in the village. Parents warned their children not to laugh on Saturdays, not because they expected the spirit to return, but because they wanted the lesson to survive. Palm oil stew was eaten with a prayer of thanks, and when the river called a person's name, no matter how familiar the voice sounded, they kept their eyes forward and their feet moving. Okoro's story spread beyond his village. Travelers carried it to neighboring towns. Griots wove it into their songs, and soon it became part of the wider lore of the region. Each version changed slightly in the telling. Sometimes he was swallowed by fire, sometimes dragged away by unseen hands, sometimes transformed into a restless bird that laughed from the treetops. But the heart of the tale remained the same. Wealth without wisdom leads only to ruin. Even now, the elders say, if you walk past the abandoned place on a Saturday, you must cover your ears. For in the silence of the morning, beneath the rustle of trees, you may hear it, the faint echo of a laugh that does not belong to the living.